Cameron, respectfully, if Juvenile and Birdman are not coming out behind you, and if Manny Fresh ain't in the corner spinning records in no type of low rider situation, so if you don't take that damn chain off, y'all, let's get ready to take over for the 99 and the 2000s to talk about episode 8 of Ready to Love, Make a Move, y'all. Hey, question crew. So we are back and it is episode 8. And let's just get right into it because we left Ashlee eat a piece of mac and cheese trying to figure out why Don did not tell her, girl, he was married. And so they're still discussing this reveal that happened during their dinner card game where Ashlee asked him to ask her something or rather reveal something that she does not know. And Don decided to reveal that he had been married, honey. So she's trying to get down to the nitty gritty, as are we, because we've never heard this situation and neither has Miss Ashlee, honey. And Don basically says, from what we heard from last episode, he was married very young. It wasn't even this really serious thing. Like he was only married for a year to this person. His family didn't even know. It was just young, wild, ambition to be in love, fall in love, and weren't crazy, but it was a bad idea. They had no assets together, no kids. It was really one of these fly by night things. And the divorce only cost $200. So he said it's just something that he learned from and it's something that is a part of his past, but it is something that did happen. I have to say, I kind of understand where he's coming from with this. I feel like I've met a lot of people in my life who were married young, like in their 20s and their late 20s, just kind of like decided to do it and it didn't work out. And they may even be on their second marriage now. And it's actually not normal in the sense of like it's happening every day, but it isn't abnormal. A lot of people have been married twice and their first marriage was in their 20s and they really didn't know themselves yet and what they wanted. He said in particular, him and his ex didn't really ask all the questions they should have asked, honey. So Ashley says she appreciates his honesty, but she is eyeing him for the fact that he did not tell her right away because they've been talking for some while, and a huge part of her conversations with him have been about trust. But she also says that she finds that even though he was married early and divorced, she finds him to be a hopeless romantic. I'm not sure where she's really getting that from, but Ashley's a little delulu. I ain't gonna hold you too long. I just want to point this out. Was anybody else irritated by the out of Ashley and them damn eyelashes, child? When one of the eyelashes was literally just lifted all the way up. This is why I don't understand how people do the spider lashes. I just don't get it, honey. It's just like one, I think it just kills the eyes. Ashley's already a beautiful girl. I honestly don't think she needs the lashes. But when they are also badly applied or slipping off, this is another reason why it looks weird to me. Half of the mascara look like it's light on the other one, and the other one look like a full-on creature coming out her eye. I have no idea why this is happening. It was irritating me while they was talking at dinner, and I was just thinking, like, if I'm looking at this, I know Dawn is. Let's move on. Child, now, if it's one thing Ready to Love enjoys, it's a good segue about nothing, honey. So right after Ashlee and Don's dinner from the other night, we segue over to the ladies in mirrors in the house, the little getting ready room. And Sharesse gets a call from Tamika. And Tamika expresses to Sharesse that she knows she's going through a lot because of the whole situation that went down with Mizell. And she really doesn't have a keeper right now like all the other ladies. So Tamika wants to send her on a blind date. Honey, why would you put this phone call somewhere? And when Sharisse's segment came on, it was just a weird random call. And then we moved on to Zadia. And speaking of Zadia, Zadia is headed over to Cameron's house dressed like Diamond from Cry Mom from back in the day. Who is picking out Zadia's outfit sometimes? Sometimes she look cute. Sometimes she look like she coming out of a 2000s BET video. I never know. Zadia is headed over to Cameron's place and she claims as she's ringing the doorbell that this is the first time she's been here. And when I tell you production is shady, because the producer's going to ask her, so is this really your first time here? And Zadia says yes. And she says, are you sure? Honey, production be shady, but Zadia lied like scissors, so she had to ask, honey. And so Zadia rings the doorbell. Cameron comes in, and this is the first time I realized. I've been talking about this chain all year. His chain says the Street Cam TSC, honey. I've been trying to figure out what that chain said for the longest time. It's adding to the ridiculousness of their situation. Anyway, Zadia shows up. Cam lives in a bachelor pad, and he claims, he really is outgrowing the space because he feels like it's just a place that he really settled into because it's a grind space. So, he has the standard things that a man has, dish full of stinks, all that kind of stuff. Well, some men, honey, because the Bari did not have that. And He's just saying that he doesn't have an issue with upgrading his space because him and Zadia have a seat, and start talking about the fact that does he think he has room in his life, because we know that that's been a big issue in their relationship. And he said that he doesn't think he has a problem with upgrading because he feels like he's outgrown the space he's in. He's really just focused on investing and making money with his businesses and things like that. So he doesn't really care so much about where he lays his head, but he does feel like he has outgrown his space. And if he had the right person in his life, he would absolutely have no issues with, moving into a new space with, more room for another person. Speaking of moving, Zadia wants to know how he's feeling about this whole thing about not necessarily moving to the East Coast. Because as we know, Zadia resides in DC. But Cameron said on their very first date that he was not interested in moving anywhere from the South, honey. He likes the heat, he likes the warmth. Now, he didn't say he wasn't interested in living, that had to stay in Louisiana. He just said that he was not interested in moving up north. And I can completely understand. Zadia hates that because she feels like, he's visited there and he likes it, and she doesn't like that he's so firm on that. She then asked him how he feels about long distance relationships. Neither one of them really like that. And it's kind of early to me for some of these questions, but I guess the whole point of this show is they're supposed to try to dig in as much as they can to find out if the person is truly compatible for them in the long term. I'm not really feeling the idea of these women only being here for like a month or two, or maybe even three, or automatically trying to make a life decision to move to some man, honey. So something about make a move kind of is not realistic, but it's the premise of the show. We're not going to get too involved. So it is time for this big to-do date that Tamika has set Sharesse up on, and she is on this blind date with a guy named Nick. Nick not really cute to me. He's giving extra from House Party, the first one, and it's giving a little kid and play fade action, but he does have a deep voice. And him and Sharesse sit down. The conversation is pretty vapid. They talk about working out. He compliments Sharisse's body. She compliments his. It's, corny flirting. They're talking about cooking and light things. And in general, flirting, I think in general can feel kind of corny. There's clearly an attraction, but he's not giving too much depth. And Sharisse is not really asking for any, honey. It's giving more that speaks. And the flirting part is kind of cringy to watch, but I think in general, in fairness, if any of us were actually caught on camera flirting, it'd probably be cringy to anybody. If we would hear ourselves amplified, honey, it would probably be uncomfortable. But they seem to be making a connection, and Sharisse seems to be happy with what she sees. So we move on to Venetia, who is over at Tabari's house. And they seem to be having a casual get together. They're very dressed down. Tabari's house is really nice for his bachelor pad, well put together. And y'all, I'm going to push back a little on Tabari. I saw the interview recently that Crystal did with Venetia. And then I also had someone in my comments, one of our QC crew, that she pointed out to me that Tabari's stuff is really what it is. And he has all that going on. And Venetia confirmed that on Crystal's interview that Tabari's family, he comes from kind of a well-to-do family, and he is in charge of a few things there. So, Tabari seems to be legit. And in fact, Venetia said that she understood that it was weird when he was naming all of these jobs, but he really does do all these different things. So they have a conversation. He shows her around. And him and Venetia sit down in the kitchen, and Tabari goes into the fridge and brings out these beautiful long stem roses. And he says that he remembered when him and Venetia met the first night that she liked long stem roses, and they even showed the clip from when she said it. And I was like, I love a man who remembers things like that. So Tabari is actually growing on me. He says that, he does listen. He says that, it's not often that he entertains in his home. Like if you're in his house, it's because, you're somebody special, because his home is his place of peace. And honey, I totally identify with that in general. I believe in that completely. Like your home is your space of peace, whether you're married, in a relationship, whatever. So just bringing strangers up in here ain't the energy I'm on. I have to feel your vibes and know that you're somebody I want in my area, honey. So eventually they start talking about the reality of what it would be like for them to be together, because Tabari has a child, which we are finding out for the first time tonight. And we're also finding out that Venetia is not necessarily interested in moving to where he is. So he's in Louisiana. Venetia's actually has family in Louisiana, and she's been coming back and forth there since she was like 18. So that's not something that bothers her about moving to New Orleans. Her concern is about moving to Mississippi because Tabari's child lives there, and he's there quite frequently. And so she's saying she doesn't know if she can do that. Like she was open to the idea of New Orleans, but Mississippi is just a little too far down the Delta for her, honey. And he says that he understands where she's coming from. She obviously respects that he's a great father and very active, but it's not something that she knows she can do. And he says, well, if things go well and things are working out, then, priorities can shift and things can be adjusted. So, Tabari out here letting her know, look, I hear what you're saying. And if this all works out, you never know. I might be making a move up there. We may have to shift some things. Or obviously, if you got married to somebody, things would adjust greatly. So, they seem to be working out a little bit. They seem to be a little bit cute. They're growing on me. I don't know what y'all think. Let me know down in the comments. So now, child, Sharesse is in the kitchen and she is cooking down because Ashley is usually our home chef, but Sharesse today is getting pancakes ready, throwing coffee out here burning in that very beautiful big kitchen that they have. All of a sudden, the ladies are all sitting there chatting, and the doorbell rings, and they look out and they see Cameron in that big window, and Zadia heads on down to go open the door. And she shows up, and Cam shows up to the house with the BS, in my opinion. He basically sits Zadia down on the couch. They have this conversation about him trying to navigate his time and attention with her. And he's saying that he has so much stuff going on right now, he doesn't know how much he can dedicate to her. And that time is about to become limited again because he just has too much going on. And he feels like he may not be the best person in this journey for her right now. He tries to pull the whole ball is in her court scenario, and that's where I wasn't really feeling him. Like when he was telling her he was limited on his time and what he could do, he wasn't giving her, he was making it sound like he was giving her the option to say, yes, I will stick with this or not. But that kind of disturbed me. Like, if you feel like you're not going to be able to put in the time and commitment with this woman, just end it. Don't, sever that tie. Don't leave her hanging in a situation where you're like, you're going to make the decision. Because some of that sometimes feels a little bit like, I don't want to say it's gaslighting because that's probably the worst word to use, but it feels like a little bit of a setup where he's trying to make her responsible for if they burn and crash versus, or if she just gets tired of waiting. So say like, hey, I didn't make you stay. And then at the same time, I told you what it is and you decided to stay. Like, if you just think you're really not gonna be able to be the person for her in this journey, just say no to it. So he tries to hope, balls in your court, you have to make the decision. It's hers, not his. And that lack of decisiveness, like I said, is just really annoying. And it just reminds me, like, just you don't want to be the bad guy, but not wanting to be the bad guy, but playing a bad guy is really annoying. And then Zadia goes, so do you want me to break up with you? And it's like, girl, he's going to feel pressure to say no because that's what men do. And so he says, no, that's not it. He just wants to let her know what the situation is. So she basically says she thought about it. Obviously, Zadia is sprung at this point and says, it's on her, but he's open to exploring if she's open to exploring, knowing what the new conditions are. And of course, Zadia continues to choose him. And, Street Cam heads on out the door. So, honey, Tamika waits with the ladies per usual because, she got to have her little annual sit down where they all dress and their little outfits downstairs. And everybody looks fabulous per usual in multiple little colors. And Tamika starts asking ladies about how everything is going with their keepers because pretty much everybody has kept their person except Sharesse now has some new eyes and new interests since, she let Danzy and Mizell go. So she starts off with Zadia, and Zadia basically explains what we just talked about with the whole Cam situation. She said that they talked through the issues, that they have kissed, and she is very cool with him. She says she's only kissed and they haven't had any other parts touched. We don't believe you. But she says they're in a good place now, and it's just more of them getting to know each other that's going to be the big deal. So Cam is still her keeper. Then Tamika zones right over to Sharesse because, of course, she hooked Sharesse up with Will from last week. That's the double date her and Zadia went on where they went to the pottery class. And she also hooked her up with Nick from this episode. And Sharesse says she likes her options, even though she's starting from scratch. She says she loves talking to Will, but in my opinion, Will is too conscious for her and definitely too broke. And I'm not saying that Will is broke. I'm saying he too broke for Sharesse, okay? And, but Will ended up saying in the conversation that he had with her that he was really into older women. And I'm like, oh, he got Usher syndrome. So I feel like we know this is not going anywhere. And the fact that I was validated later basically proved my point. Sharesse likes a nice wallet in addition to a kind person. And so it was never going to work with her because he's about the community and activism work. And even if he got paid well, Sharesse is trying to travel and get things bought for her. And I don't think that's his bag at all. Nick, however, she says she's very attracted to him, but she wants to know that there's more there. Of course, Nick is very surface. And like I said, he doesn't look like he has any depth. But I mean, the conversation with him and Sharesse was dry as hell. And, it is what it is when it comes to the scenario. But Tamika lets them know that they need to start making, further decisions about how things are going to go. And she is going to be, or she has rather invited the keepers over so that they can meet with these men and make a decision about where they want to move in their scenario, and ultimately who is going to be their person going forward. So she wants to go upstairs and get undressed and get ready for this date. They stayed in the same clothes. So it's time for the mixer, honey. And the drinks are flowing. The ladies take a quick toast to each other to have a positive night. And then in walks Don's. That's the first guy to step through that door, honey. And he is looking for his Miss Ashlee. He picks her up and spins her around, because Ashlee loves it. And, the ladies decide to hit him up with we heard her rap. So I was like, what? Was Ashlee hip hopping it, beatboxing it down to the floor, and we didn't get to see it? So we haven't heard you say a poem. Child, why did they ask for this broken down, most deaf poetry vibe? It was very elementary. I can't even remember the rhyme because it was so horrible. It was like 2 lines, and they were the easiest thing possible. Like, you could see it at any elementary talent show anywhere in this country. So he finishes his poetry, and then all the men start showing up. And I just want to know, and y'all let me know down in the comments, why do Cam keep this shine rag in his back pocket? Every time this man has gone on a date with Zadia, he has this handkerchief. It's not a handkerchief, it's definitely a washcloth. I guess the sweating situation, but it's just so weird because it hangs out his back pocket, don't never match what he got on. Anyway, they all show up. Nick is the last man through the door, and Nick shows up with a bag bearing gifts, honey, and we love to see it. So he has some gifts for Sharesse, very, very specific. And he told her that they were specific to some things that she had talked to him about on their date. Mind you, this man only met her once. They may have talked in between that time, but when I tell you just the reflection and a collection of memory, you know that him and Sharesse are not going to work out, honey, because none of them said Cartier. And Kevin is hating in the process. I'm like, oh, my man came bearing gifts. And it's like, sir, you could have bought flowers or anything. You showed up in that same t-shirt, so you could have at least bought something besides the ill-equipped haircut that he got on. So Sharesse is really excited about the situation, and she's really feeling, both of the men. I don't go back and forth between the dates, so we're going to clear all the air on each person now. So Sharesse has been talking with Nick. She's talking with Will. She really, really, really likes both of them. And she starts to get confused about which one she's into. So she actually ends up going to Vern and Zadia to find out what she should do. She loves Will's intellect and his activism in the community. She also loves that he's very active with his son, which is weird because Sharesse said that she didn't want kids. But anyway, or just wasn't really into them. She likes Nick. She thinks they have great chemistry, but she hasn't had a lot of depth from him, and she's wondering what to do. Zadia and Vern see it 2 different ways. They both agree that communication is important, but Vern feels like the chemistry part you can't really beat. So if it's communication, y'all can work through that part. Zadia feels opposite. She feels like the mental part has to be there first, and then I can get into you physically. Or really, both can be there, but I like the mental part more. It matters what you're saying out your mouth, just not how you look. I tend to agree with Zadia. Like, once you get into my mind, then the other parts of me start to warm to you even more. Even if you're physically attracted to me, I can't date a dumb man. I never have and I never will. I can't date a man who just has no depth and no interest at all. Or all you are is a pretty face or attractive with a body. Because as soon as you open your mouth, you're going to turn me off. But Sharesse still doesn't know what to do. It's very hard for her. She leaves kind of with no solvent in mind. And ultimately, at the end of everything, she sort of picks, she ends up picking not she ends up not picking Will. My bad. She says he's a great guy, he's very smart or whatever, but she feels like he might be too committed to his son in terms of like actually being willing to move, and he had to move to Miami, whereas Kevin's more open because he doesn't have that same thing down, and they don't talk about, so maybe that's what her issue is. We then move on to Vern and Tabari. They don't really have a lot of issues. Vern's thing is just a concern about the long distance situation. They sort of talk through that, and like I said, Tabari's really open. He basically says hey, if this is something that ends up getting really serious, I could actively see myself making a way in my life for us to kind of be together, because she doesn't want to do long distance. He doesn't want to do long distance, but he genuinely likes her, and they seem to keep it going. So she decides to also keep him. Ashley's in the kitchen with Don, and she basically says that she is into Don. They obviously have great chemistry, now great communication, but she is concerned that he did not initially tell her about the marriage thing. She feels like that's a big thing to not leave out of active conversation that we're having on a regular basis, but she is glad that he told her. She is expressing that could be a concern for her because that's something that happened in the past. Don lets her know, look, I am here for you. I am for real with this thing, Ashley. Like, I'm not playing no games right now. It's me and you. And I'm glad that I told you, but I am, it's unfortunate I didn't tell you right away. But I'm not here to play with your heart. I genuinely want to see where this can go because I really think it could lead to something serious. She's really into him and at least into the things that he's saying, and they decide to make a go of it. And of course, Cam and Zadia, no real big issue there. Past the time commitment, he says the same things over again. She says yes, and she keeps him as well. Now, see, this half of Tamika will sneak up on you. For some reason, she just loves to rattle the ladies. And so after they've already all picked their keepers, she decides that she wants to switch it up. And specifically, she's going to bring back somebody from these ladies' past to shake up the table and see if somebody that they let go previously could actually be their match. First up is Vernisha. Child, Venetia don't know what's going on. She's like, look, I ain't interested in nobody in my past. They my past is for a reason. So Venetia is headed to the restaurant to meet the man that she could have let get away. And she heads in, and when I tell you her face immediately when she got in there and looked at that table, complete disappointment. And do you know why? Because the man was Mizell. Yes, the clown from last week that tried to play between her and Sharesse and, make up some story about Venetia caring more and all this extra stuff. And like I said, I saw the Crystal interview, and Venetia basically said that Mizell is a full clown. And, he's definitely a liar, and he wasn't transparent and clear. And so it's like not a go there. But focusing forward, they end up sitting down. Venetia's not impressed. Mizell, of course, apologizes for the confusion around, the whole Sharesse situation. And he was trying to connect with her at the same time, and he didn't know how the rules went and everything like that. And Venetia's trying to hear him out because, again, this is before everything else. But he basically says that he didn't know what it was about. He was attracted to her and Sharesse. And she said, why didn't you just say that? Like, you could have told Sharesse what was going on, and it would have been just a lot more transparent and clear, because now you come across as not honest. And, he tries to backpedal and say all this extra stuff, and it just is not working. He comes across as the classic liar. He continues to indicate that he'll be like that, and ultimately tries to work up the nerves to ask Vernisha if he thinks that they can make a go at it, besides, even with all the BS that's in place. Venetia looks unimpressed, but she does say that she is attracted to him, and she wonders what that situation could be, but she doesn't like the way he moves, and that's the end of the episode. So y'all let me know what y'all think about episode 8. Looks like we're squaring off to the end. So I think we only have 10 episodes. So we got episode 9, where some of the ladies are going to be meeting some of their old pass-throughs. And then I think final episode will be 10. And I believe that there is a reunion, because they indicated that based on the whole Stormy and Ashlee drama. So I believe that they did meet up for a reunion. And Venetia did discuss that as well, and stated that, she believes Stormy about the whole production set her up. So y'all let me know what y'all think, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.